And it was 9:30 that she pulled up here to the store behind me, went inside. She's a regular here, by the way, at this convenience store. Went inside to grab something, comes out. Her ex-boyfriend is in her car. Shots are fired. She runs back inside, and the surveillance video shows her running towards the bathroom.
Thurman got out of that car and followed her through the front door. The store surveillance system caught everything.
To a news alert in Hall County. We're getting a look at the surveillance video of a shooting in a convenience store. Investigators say a woman was shot and killed last night by her former live-in boyfriend.
Somewhere in Hall County, Georgia, a man is walking around with a tattoo on his neck that reads Romans 12 verse 19. It's a scripture about vengeance, specifically about leaving it to God. On the night of July 16, 2026, that same man sat in the passenger seat of a woman's car in a convenience store parking lot with a gun and waited for her to walk back out.
Passenger seat of her car and shot her multiple times. She managed to get out of the car and run back into the store.
Surveillance video from the convenience store on Mountain View Road in Hall County shows a woman running into the store. A second later, a man with a gun bursts in and starts shooting. The owner of the store says the woman was initially shot in the parking lot.
I think already shot one outside, then she running on the store, and he's following on the back. He was
shooting all the way.
Exactly.
Hall County Sheriff's...
The woman ran towards the back of the store. He followed her with a gun bursting through the front door right behind her. Shots fired. The woman falling to the floor. And then silence. Make that make sense. Because I can't. And I've been trying. Welcome to True Crime Unravelled on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, you're on True Crime Unravelled TV. We read every single comment you leave. Every theory. Every question. Every time you share your own story. Keep them coming. You are the reason for this channel. Please don't be a stranger. Hit that subscribe button. Now let me tell you about Tia Keith, 44 years old, Oakwood, Georgia, owner of her own hair salon in Gainesville. The kind of woman whose clients didn't stay clients for long, they became family. Her cousin Charlotte described her as glamorous in a way that wasn't about looks, it was about presence. Funny in a way that caught you off guard. The kind of person who filled a room without trying. Her father called her the light of his life. A daddy's girl through and through. She had moved to Hall County after high school with exactly one goal, to build something. And she did. Salon, clientele, community, roots. The store owner on Mountain View Road knew her by face and by frequency. She stopped in once a day, sometimes twice. She was what regulars are in small businesses, part of the rhythm of the place. The kind of customer whose absence you'd notice before you even thought to check the news. On Thursday, July 16th, just after 9:30 in the evening, Tia pulled into the Supana Food Mart on Mountain View Road. A routine stop. She went inside, grabbed what she needed, paid at the counter. Nothing about that moment was different from any other evening. She walked back out to her car. Antoine Thurman was already sitting in the passenger seat. He hadn't followed her in from the road. He wasn't someone she ran into by chance. He was there, waiting, already inside her vehicle before she ever came back through that door. Which means he knew where she'd be. He knew when she'd be there. And he had made a decision before she ever pulled into that parking lot. When she reached the car, he opened fire. Multiple shots, right there in the vehicle, in a lit parking lot, in front of a store she visited almost daily. Somehow, and I want you to hold on to this, somehow Tia got out of that car. Shot multiple times, she ran. Not away from the store. Back toward it. Back toward the lights, the counter, the clerk, the other customer inside. Back toward people. It was the most human instinct in the world. Get somewhere with witnesses. Get somewhere with help. Thurman got out of that car and followed her through the front door. The store surveillance system caught everything. The owner, watching the footage remotely from home, described it in pieces. He saw her running toward the back, toward the bathroom. He thought she needed to use it. Then he saw her fall. Then he understood what he was watching. His nephew, working the counter that night, called 911 and dropped behind it. A single customer was present. Neither of them physically harmed. Both of them witnesses to something no one should ever have to see. Tia Vidden Keith died on the floor of that convenience store. By the time deputies arrived, minutes after that 911 call, Thurman was gone. He left in a vehicle, disappearing into a Thursday night that swallowed him whole before a single unit reached the scene.
Video from inside a Metro Atlanta convenience store. Look at this. Police say a woman's ex-boyfriend shot and killed her in the store. We first brought you the story as breaking news on Channel 2 Action News this morning when we took you live to the scene along Mountain View Road in Hall County. That's where Channel 2's Susan Hendricks joins us live at the store. Susan, you're learning more about that victim.
Yes, her name is Tia Keith, Karen. It was 9:30 that she pulled up here to the store behind me, went inside. She's a regular here, by the way, at this convenience store. Went inside to grab something, comes out. Her ex-boyfriend is in her car. Shots are fired. She runs back inside, and the surveillance video shows her running towards the bathroom.
Back to a bathroom, and she falling on the floor. But he another 4 or 5 bullets.
Farouk Khan, the owner of the convenience store, describes what he saw on the security footage as he watched in horror from home.
First bullet he already did outside, and she running go inside.
After hearing gunshots, you see the clerk look around the corner. He picks up the phone, calls 911, then ducks behind the counter.
She's a customer. My wife watched the video. Is my regular customer. She work on the salon. She work my very regular customer. She coming twice a day.
Word of the shooting reached her family members, who immediately drove to the site of the deadly shooting before heading to the victim's hair salon.
And I'm on my way to her salon now to put a sign there because I don't want anybody to think that she just didn't show up.
Coming up at Channel 2 Action News at 6, you will hear more from Tia Keith's first cousin, Charlotte, who you saw there, what Tia was like as a daughter, as a sister, and as a first cousin. Live in Henry County, Susan Hendricks.
Video from the convenience store on Mountain View Road in Hall County shows a woman running into the store. A second later, a man with a gun bursts in and starts shooting. The owner of the store says the woman was initially shot in the parking lot.
I think already shot one outside, then she running on the store, and he's following on the back.
He was shooting all the way.
Exactly.
Hall County Sheriff's investigators say Tia Keith's former boyfriend initially shot her after jumping into the passenger seat of her car that was parked outside the store. Tia ran into the store to escape, but the man went after her, shooting her multiple times. Investigators say he then left in her car. They have not released his name, but family members say Tia had a boyfriend who she was trying to break up with.
She was in a relationship that she was trying to exit from. I want to tell women out there who are in relationships and they're not healthy to get away.
Charlotte Sosby is Tia Keith's cousin.
I have so many memories of her.
Sosby says Tia had her own hair salon in Gainesville. She hopes all her customers, friends, and those that never got the chance to meet her remember the bright, kind person Tia was.
Remember her heart, the kind of person that she was, her sense of humor, that she was a sweet person.
What followed was 7 days of silence from the suspect and anything but silence from the investigation. Hall County detectives pulled footage from every camera on that stretch of Mountain View Road. They located the vehicle Thurman was believed to have used when he fled. They executed a search warrant at a Metro Atlanta residence and recovered evidence. They tracked and traced and waited. On Sunday, July 20th, 4 days after the shooting, the sheriff's office publicly named him. Antoine Sintel Thurman, 45, of Oakwood, Tia's former live-in boyfriend, charged with malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault, all filed under the Family Violence Act. Law enforcement wasn't just calling this a shooting. They were calling it what it was. He was described as 5 feet 9 inches, around 212 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Investigators noted he has a prosthetic lower left leg and walks with a limp, visible in the store footage. They asked the public not to approach him. Tips to Crime Stoppers of Atlanta at 404-577. Tips or the Hall County Sheriff's Office directly at 770-503-3232.
Right now at 7:02, we are entering day 5 in the search for a man accused of killing his ex-girlfriend inside a Hall County convenience store. The suspect remains out of sight this morning and on the run. Our Stephanie Haynock following the newest developments this morning from the Hall County Sheriff's Office. So, Steph, what do you know at this hour?
Yeah, good morning, Jonathan. So we do know investigators, they want everyone to be on the lookout for Antoine Sintel Thurman. They say that he shot and killed his ex-girlfriend last Thursday. Take a look at your screen. Get a look. Thurman is described as 5'9", around 212 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. Police say that he has multiple tattoos, including Romans 12:19 tattooed across his neck. Hall County Sheriff's Office releasing additional images of Thurman inside the convenience store on Mountain View Road on July 16th. They say he does have a prosthetic lower left leg and that he walks with a limp. According to deputies, 44-year-old Vidden Keith had just returned to her car outside the store when Thurman, who investigators say was waiting inside her vehicle, allegedly opened fire. Investigators say Keith then ran into the store, but that Thurman followed her inside and shot her again before leaving. She did not survive. Now, investigators found the vehicle that Thurman fled the scene in, but say they're not sure what vehicle he may be traveling in at this time. They do say, though, if you do see him, if you recognize him, don't approach him. Instead, call 911 immediately. Live here in Hall County, I'm Stephanie Haynock. Jonathan, back to you.
Sir, tonight, one of Metro Atlanta's most wanted is finally locked up after being on the run for a week. Antoine Thurman was wanted for murder out of Hall County, accused of killing his ex-girlfriend. And this afternoon, local and federal authorities tracked him down to a motel 140 miles away in Augusta, where he's now awaiting extradition back to Hall County. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn has been following this manhunt from the very beginning. He's live in our newsroom. So, Cody, you actually have some new video showing Thurman being walked out in handcuffs.
Yes, and you can imagine it was a phone call Tia Keith's father has been waiting for. It's been 7 long days, but this afternoon he got the news. The man accused of taking his daughter's life was finally captured. Now, this is Tia Keith, is a well-known and very talented braider and loctician across the metro. Her family says Tia was someone who brought joy to about every situation and was hardly ever seen without a smile. And this is the moment the man accused of stealing that joy from her family and friends was captured this afternoon in Augusta. The FBI, GBI, and Richmond County Sheriff's Office tracked Antoine Thurman to this Motel 6 on Wrightsboro Road. He was alone when the SWAT team busted down his door and put him in cuffs. Now, this comes exactly 1 week tonight after he's accused of following Tia to a convenience store here on Mountain View Road, just outside Oakwood, where investigators say he got inside her SUV while she ran into the store. When Tia walked out and got into her vehicle, the sheriff's office says Thurman started shooting her. Now, Tia managed to fight back. She escaped that SUV, ran inside, but Thurman chased after her, and the sheriff's office says he continued shooting her inside the store. Tia died on scene and Thurman took off. Again, his run of freedom ended tonight. In the coming days, he'll be brought back to Hall County, where he'll officially be charged with malice murder, which in Georgia makes him eligible for the death penalty if the DA decides to consider it.
All right, Cody, thanks a lot for the update. We really appreciate that.
On day 7, he was found at a motel and taken into custody. 3 days before that arrest, on July 19th, Tia's family and community gathered outside for a balloon release. Her father and mother were there. Clients were there. People who had driven from other states were there. Her cousin Charlotte, who had raced to the salon the night of the shooting to put a sign on the door because she didn't want anyone to think Tia just hadn't shown up, she was there too. A family spokesperson stood in front of that crowd and said something that deserves to be repeated here. When you see something, say something, do something. Don't let Tia's legacy die. Those balloons went up over Gainesville on a Sunday afternoon, while the man who killed her was still out there. The family held both grief and the unresolved weight of that at the same time. That's a particular kind of suffering. Loss without closure. Mourning without an ending.
And new tonight, family and friends are remembering a Hall County woman who was shot and killed this month. Good evening, I'm Wendy Corona. George Estevez is off. This right here is 44-year-old Tia Keith. Her final moments captured on surveillance video inside of a convenience store. Police say her ex-boyfriend killed her in the store in Gainesville. And those who knew her say she was a devoted daughter, successful business owner, and someone who touched countless lives. Channel 2's Susan Hendricks is live in Hall County, where loved ones are honoring the woman they say meant so much to so many. Susan.
Yes, she really did, Wendy. And Tia Keith moved here after high school with a dream of opening her own hair salon, of having a life that friends and family would be proud of. She did just that and so much more. But on July 16th, police say her ex-boyfriend shot and killed her at that convenience store. It's just 4 miles from where I'm standing, the church where her funeral will be held tomorrow. But her friends and family again saying, look, we want to focus on the life that she lived, who she was.
Such ambition when she came here. She already had a plan, like she wanted to excel in life and make our family proud. And she has always made us proud.
Tia Keith built a successful career as a hairstylist, earning loyal clients who became like family. Her father says she was and always will be the center of his world.
She was always a daddy's girl. And I just loved her to death. She was just the light of my life.
The community is still trying to process what happened on Thursday, July 16th, when investigators say Tia Keith was shot by her ex-boyfriend outside of a local convenience store and continued to shoot as she ran inside.
It hurt the city of Gainesville, period, and all her loved ones.
Surveillance footage shows her trying to get away and the clerk ducking behind the counter as he calls 911.
Great loss.
Antoine Sintel Thurman was arrested a week later at a motel and charged with malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault.
I was just in there, people walking by, looking at the setup that we have in there, and they were just breaking out in tears.
Friends and family filled the Wimberley Funeral Home to remember a woman they say poured her heart into every person she met.
Very glamorous, sweet-hearted, smart.
Channel 2's Susan Hendricks joins us live again from Hall County. So, Susan, she tried to get away. She couldn't. Now her family will lay her to rest tomorrow. But what happens next with the suspect?
Yeah, it is so sad seeing those final moments. We obviously aren't showing all of that. With the suspect, I mentioned the charges. With a malice murder charge, it is standard, Wendy, for a grand jury to hear that, to decide whether to indict. After that, he will be arraigned. We will hear a plea of guilty or not guilty. This could take several weeks, though, and I spoke to, just a short time ago, Charlotte, her cousin, Tia's cousin, and she said they haven't heard about a court date, so it could be any time. But again, it could take several weeks, maybe even months before we hear a date. Wendy.
All right, we will continue to follow this one, and of course thinking about the family as they lay her to rest tomorrow. Thank you.
Now here's what I keep coming back to, and I'll keep it brief because the story says it better than any analysis can. Thurman had that verse tattooed on his neck. Romans 12 verse 19. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. It's a verse about restraint, about the belief that justice isn't yours to deliver. He wore that on his body every single day. And then he sat in a woman's car with a gun and waited for her to come back from buying something small on a Thursday evening. Whatever he told himself that night, whatever version of events justified what he did, the tattoo and the trigger exist in the same body. That contradiction doesn't explain anything, but it does tell you something about how people who do things like this think, or stop thinking, or decide the rules they claim to live by don't apply to them when it matters most. Tia Keith tried to leave. She was already gone from that relationship, former, past tense, over. And he followed her anyway, not metaphorically, literally, across a parking lot and through a door. The evidence was on camera. The charges are filed. The Family Violence Act classification is on the record. If you were sitting on that jury, with the footage, the charges, and everything you now know, would the case convince you beyond a reasonable doubt? Drop your verdict in the comments below. And before you go, do you know someone who's in the process of leaving or recently has? Share this. It costs nothing and it might mean everything. Subscribe for more, And don't let Tia's legacy be silenced. This is True Crime Unraveled.